work, forces, and machines. In science, work is done when a force moves an object. No work is done if an object does not move, even if a force is applied. Machines make work easier by changing the magnitude or direction of the force needed to do work. A simple machine is a basic tool used to make work easier. When a simple machine is used, the input force is smaller than or moves in a different direction from the output force. The input force is the force exerted on the simple machine. The output force is the force exerted by the simple machine. The 6 types of simple machines are lever, wedge, inclined plane, pulley, screw, and wheel and axle. The diagram shows how a lever can be used to lift a box. Using a wedge. A wedge is a type of simple machine. Wedges are commonly used to split objects apart. The head of an axe is a wedge. The input force applied at the base of a wedge is distributed along its angled sides. When a force is applied to an axe, the sides of the axe blade push outward on the wood. The outward force causes the wood to split. Measuring work. Work is done when a force moves an object. The amount of work done depends on the magnitude of the force used to move the object and the distance over which the force is applied. The value for amount of work done is expressed in joules or Newton meters and is calculated by using the following equation. W, work F, force D, distance. Mechanical advantage and power. Mechanical advantage, or MA, is the amount by which a machine makes work easier. It is a ratio of the magnitude of the output force to the magnitude of the input force. Power describes the rate at which work is done. Expressed in watts, it is a ratio of the amount of work done to the time used to do the work. Mechanical advantage and power are calculated by using the following equations. Lesson 9 Access prior knowledge. Work and levers. Work is done when a force moves an object. The amount of work done is a product of the size of the force multiplied by the distance over which the force is applied. Simple machines make work easier by reducing the size or changing the direction of the force needed to move an object. One type of simple machine is a lever. A lever is a rigid bar that moves about a fulcrum, or pivot point. The object to be moved by a lever is called the load or resistance. With one type of lever, the force is applied to one end, the load is at the other end, and the fulcrum is between the force and the load. The illustration shows how a claw hammer can be used as this type of lever. Work and power. Work and power are values related to the forces required to move objects. Work is done when a force moves an object. Expressed in joules, the amount of work done is calculated by multiplying the size of the force by the distance over which the force is applied. Power is the rate at which work is done. Power is expressed in watts and is calculated by dividing the amount of work done by the time used to do the work. Mechanical advantage. Machines make work easier. The amount by which a machine makes work easier is the mechanical advantage of that machine. The greater the mechanical advantage, the easier the machine makes doing work. Mechanical advantage is a ratio of the size of the output force to the size of the input force. The table shows input force and output force values in newtons for each of 4 machines. Inclined planes. An inclined plane is a type of simple machine. It is a flat, sloped surface. A ramp is an example of an inclined plane. Pushing a heavy object up a ramp is easier than picking up the object because less force is needed. However, the force must be applied over a longer distance. Advantages of using pulleys. A pulley is a simple machine typically used to lift objects. A pulley has 2 main parts, a rope and a grooved wheel. The rope fits into the groove of the wheel. Using a pulley may change the direction or amount of applied force required to move an object. The table below shows the advantages of the 3 main types of pulleys. A block and tackle pulley contains at least 1 fixed pulley and 1 movable pulley, as the illustration shows. Screwdrivers. Screwdrivers make putting in screws easier. A screwdriver is a type of simple machine known as a wheel and axle. The axle is a bar that goes through the center of the wheel. Because the wheel has a larger radius than the axle, it moves a greater distance than the axle. A small force applied to the wheel becomes a larger force applied to the axle. Compound machines. Levers, wedges, inclined planes, pulleys, screws, and wheels and axles are the 6 types of simple machines. However, most machines are not simple machines. Most machines are compound machines. A compound machine contains 2 or more simple machines. A bicycle is a compound machine. The illustration shows some simple machines that make up a bicycle.